Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, from working in the heart of a busy political press office, Jack Murray understood the grunt work that goes into PR, and in an attempt to remove this, MediaHQ was founded. Digitising the printed media directory proved to be the turning point for the business, and Jack joins us now to tell us about the success which followed. Jack, before we discuss the success story, which is MediaHQ, provide us with an overview of your career highlights.
I grew up in the west of Ireland in a small family business that was started, would you believe, by my great-grandfather in the 1880s, and small farm supplies businesses. It started as a general store, and I suppose, look, that was the environment in which I grew up in. I studied business studies in UL, and then worked in marketing for Dubarry Shoes for a while, but just always had a hankering for communications, and went then and studied journalism, and from that got into working in the world of politics. And I suppose that was the grounding for everything that kind of came afterwards.
You also mentioned that you spent some time working in the world of politics. How was that?
Do you know what? It was like the University of Hard Knocks, in that I went and I studied, I did a postgraduate in journalism in what is TUD now. And, you know, I was in my early 20s. I was going to change the world, and got a job in a farming magazine, which I hated, if I was being honest. Like, I didn't leave East Galway to be writing about mastitis, if I'm being honest. And I got a call. It just shows you the sliding doors moments in people's careers. I got a call one day from the guy who led the journalism course, and we used to go for a coffee once a week and talk about politics. And he rang in and said, "Look, I got a call here from the Deputy Government Press Secretary, and he's looking for me to recommend somebody to go work with Mary Harney and the Progressive Democrats. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Would I? What?" And the following day, I was going into government buildings to do an interview, and that moment kind of changed my whole career. And it was I'm still in contact with David Quinn, who enabled that, and I ring him every now and again to thank him again, like to say, like, he didn't have to lift the phone that day. And like, literally, like, I spent 5 years doing that, communicating at almost an industrial level: press conferences, crises, press releases, briefings, you know, things going very well, things going terrible. An absolute roller coaster of experience and emotion, and it still is, I would say, the best place to learn how to communicate, like, because it's such a hothouse atmosphere.
And what did you learn over that 5-year period?
I learned loads. Like, I suppose one of the things I always say to kids who come and want to learn something, like, get a place that you can practice the skills every day. And like the core skills of how to write succinctly, how to write a headline, how to deal with journalists, how to pitch things, how to manage a message, how to act in a crisis. Like, I remember, like, you know, the late Bobby Malloy being embroiled in a huge crisis, and just like watching how people reacted to that great Mike Tyson line of, like, everybody has a plan until you get a punch in the head. And like watching these senior government ministers, like, in a time of crisis, and learning about judgment and how to react and all of that, and doing it on fast forward. So you got to learn all of the key skills over and over and over again, and then build a network and build relationships and do all that kind of side by side with that.
So you went on then and started MediaHQ. Where did the idea for that come from, and what was the initial service offering?
Yeah, like, so MediaHQ started in that, like, I suppose my early grounding was in a political press office, and I was the Swiss Army knife who had to do all the jobs, write the speeches, write the press releases, make sure I had everybody's contact details up to date. And I kind of came obsessed with this notion of, well, imagine if you could find a way to do that easier. It started off as a book. It was a contacts book that people would have bought. And then we realised pretty quickly that a book really wasn't fit for purpose for that job. So we created MediaHQ as a piece of software that had huge amounts of data on journalists, on newsrooms, and news desks. And it was this amazing interface for professional communicators to get their message out to the world. And the way it works really simply now is, if you turn on 6 o'clock news tonight, or if you tune in there to Southeast and you hear a story on the bulletin, there's a 60% to 70% chance that that story was distributed to the news desk via MediaHQ. So all of the top communications teams, they use us. They manage all of their outbound communications through MediaHQ. So they log in, they build media lists, they distribute through the platform, but it comes from their own email address. And it cures a whole load of what I was saying earlier. It cures a whole load of pain points. So we do all the research. We make sure that your lists are all up to date. And all that data entry and reporting becomes slicker. And look, it's taxes and time. If you can create a product or service that gives people back the gift of time, you're onto something.
So talk to us about how you went about building a client base for MediaHQ.
Yeah, like, at the start, there was a lot of people who wanted to buy the book, and then you had to build value along the way. So we made the jump into digital, back 12, 14 years ago. So we had to do a lot of, and I know you're very au fait with this word, we had to do a lot of training at the start where we were kind of showing people the path that we were taking. So there was a lot of that. And I suppose then it was just this notion of that kind of core job of, can I build media lists really quickly? Can I find the journalists? One of the taglines we use is, can I get my story further, faster to more people? If you go to a good PR person, Karl, and say, look, I've got 20 more emails here of people who want to hear what you have to say, they'll send the story all day, every day. So I suppose at the start it was that education piece to kind of say to people, look, this is a better path. You're going to be able to run a more efficient team this way. And slowly then, it was bringing people on that journey of transformation.
So bring us up to date. What size is the company and how many clients have you got?
Yeah, so the company is in multiple hundreds of clients. We have clients in Ireland. We have clients in the UK. Our turnover is in the bracket of between 1 and 5 million. And yeah, we've grown every year for the last 6 years between kind of 18 and 25% every year.
And is there much left in the Irish market to grow even further, or are you looking overseas at this stage at international expansion?
There's still room to grow in the Irish market. Every year you look at how to build a value relationship with clients. So, how can you build a value to, give a better experience and I suppose, earn more money while you're doing that. We're currently planning a North American database. And the pandemic was really good in that business-wise, we sell a productivity tool that people can use online. So when times are really good, people want us, and when times aren't so good, people need us. So it's a good dividing line that way. And in the last 3 years, we would have joined 2 international associations to continue. We've a very particular skill set now, and to look for international partners who are interested in partnering with us, who have clients who need media contacts. So that's the growth path for next year is continued growth in the Irish market, and then looking for commercial partners for the North American database.
And while North America is on your horizon, is there much competition there in that space?
Yeah, but we do. I suppose. Look, the one thing about Irish business, and I know from listening to the show that it's evident in the businesses that you talk to week on week. We do things in this country at a very high level, and we've built MediaHQ a globally skilled team. Like, our mission is to be the best in the world, to be recognised as the best in the world at media contacts research, and we're well on the way there. America is more competitive, but it's the largest market, English-speaking market in the world. So it just becomes scale. The other thing that we've built really successfully in the last 3 years is the research engine that powers the product. So we've developed this really skilled methodology for going out and finding journalists and managing that. That's almost like a product within the product, and that you need that to run. When you're running hundreds of thousands of contacts through a database, you need that. And the skills, I suppose, to keep it up to date and relevant is powered by that software.
The channels to market and the overseas markets, what will you be utilising in that respect?
Yeah, look, the biggest thing for us is the international network and the 2 international associations that we've built. The big complementary product in our industry would be called media intelligence, which people who are listening might know as media monitoring. So it'd be someone who would be ringing a company and they'd be saying, look, this is my brand name. Can you give me all the mentions of my brand name across social, online, TV and radio? Everybody who's a client for that service also needs our service. So in some markets, we partner with media intelligence companies who need to plug in media contacts into their offering. And that's been a really good driver for growth. And it means then that they understand the markets, they understand the end client, and speeds that process up for us.
And of course, artificial intelligence is something I'm sure you're going to be able to utilise along the way too. Have you any ideas on that at this stage?
Yeah, we're using it already in that, there's a piece in there's a place in the software where you write your press release to send it out. And in May of this year, we turned on our ChatGPT press release writer. So you can just answer 5 questions now, and it'll write the press release for you. It'll generate 10 headlines, and it'll write the press release for you. It's a brilliant use of the capability of the software because, and you know this from being in the business, press release writing, like it's not War and Peace, it's not WBA, it's functional storytelling to get a message out there. And with the software and the prompts, it helps you generate a really sharp message. I consider myself a reasonably good writer, and it can outflank me many times over. So why would you not lean into it and save yourself the time and be productive doing something else?
For sure. And Jack, you've written the book, The Magic Slice, How to Master the Art of Storytelling for Business. Talk to us about that and some of the tips that you provide to business owners in that respect.
We were at a kind of a milestone with MediaHQ when one of our clients was about to share the 100,000th story. And I had a bit of an epiphany where I kind of thought, like at an industrial level, Karl, every day we're seeing, like since this morning, there may have been 80, 90, 100 stories shared on the platform. And you see really good things that people engage with really well, and you see really poor things. And the magic slice, if you can imagine, is 2 circles, where one is what you want to talk about and the other is what people want to hear. And in the book, I go through the science behind storytelling. I go through how to shape a story, what are the elements of a great story. And then I bring people through this notion of, what does it take to be a great storyteller? And look, the best brands that tell great stories have a story culture driven by a mission. Give you an example. There's a brilliant brand of jeans in a town called Cardigan in Wales called Hyatt Denim. Cardigan was one of the biggest manufacturers of jeans ever until they were all outsourced in the 90s to the Far East. And they started with a simple mission that they wanted to rehire everybody who worked in the factories to get the town back making jeans again. And the storytelling was so good around the brand that the day they launched, they got 9 months of orders online on the first day. And it's all direct through the website. Great storytelling brands have a culture of it, but they're also mission-driven and they understand what's at the heart of that transaction.
Final question for you this morning, Jack, is in relation to Elon Musk and what he's been doing with Twitter, now X, of course. What are your thoughts on that and the impact it's going to have on your clients going forward?
Yeah, like it is funny in that I just finished reading Walter Isaacson's book on Musk, and I remarked to my wife the other evening, that he's definitely a genius, and but he's also crazy, and but it's like he's done it a number of times over. I wouldn't agree with his methodology in that he kind of liquidizes people, processes, and kind of cultures as he goes. He could be hugely successful, but I think there'll be a lot of collateral damage on the way. So it's definitely a bumpy ride. I'm not quite sure where it's going to end up, but I wouldn't second guess him considering what he's done with Tesla and SpaceX.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Jack Murray from MediaHQ, and I'd like to thank Jack for joining us on this morning's show.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.